Good evening to everyone in the Mid-Ohio Valley, and thanks for joining us. I'm Andrew Knoll. As Parkersburg City Council prepares to vote on the second reading of the waste collection ordinance, our Cassidy Fury sat down with Councilwoman Wendy Tuck of District 4 to provide clarity to concerned citizens.
Ahead of Tuesday's second reading of the waste collection ordinance, Councilwoman Wendy Tuck said she does not believe the council is ready to make an informed decision.
I frankly think that we had basically 3 working days to examine all the material. There were a number of questions. We did not get a financial analysis of what were the problems, what were the possible solutions. We don't know what equipment and material and the shape it's in, so there's a ton of information we don't have and haven't gotten. I believe that there are 2 or 3 of us that have questions that we would like to minimally see the contract renegotiated. I believe that the others are pretty satisfied that that this is the best and only option for the city at this time.
In a previous interview, Parkersburg Mayor Tom Joyce said billing for waste management will be billed through the city. Tuck said that she and her constituents still have concerns over how add-ons through waste management will be billed, aside from the city's monthly fee.
So you could possibly get 3 bills. You could get one to the city, one to waste management, and one to Rumpke.
Some people question the outcome if the decision to contract with waste management fails due to customer dissatisfaction or other reasons after their 5-year initial contract term.
That's what scares me, frankly, is that right now the city has a fully equipped sanitation department. Once we accept the contract with waste management and we sell off most or all of our trucks, we are not going to have that as an option.
Tuck said she feels that the employment crisis of the city's sanitation department hadn't been properly addressed prior to the city's decision to outsource the job.
And then they say, well, we can't raise one department without raising all of them. Well, that's not exactly true. I mean, we've had shortages in police department, we've had shortages in the fire department, and we've done bonuses, we've done incentives, we've raised pay, we've increased pay for certifications within code department, and the mayor's done a lot to try to retain and recruit people from within, but we need more drivers, and that's where that $13.50 has absolutely got to be higher.
To Tuck's knowledge, an outline of a plan to renegotiate current sanitation workers' wages was not laid out, and the possibility was not properly given thought.
So we need to run the numbers. You need to be able to say, look, it's going to be this much, or this much, or this much, and let's just see how it falls out.
The recycling center is staffed by employees of the city's sanitation department and will continue to operate until a decision is made about the city's recycling initiative after February 10th. Reporting from Parkersburg, I'm Cassidy Fury with WTAP News.